My father kicked me out to give my room to my half-brother. Now he's begging for $15,000. But I discovered my brother was stealing at work and exposed them both. I'm 18 years old. I'm in my senior year of high school. And honestly, I need to get this story off my chest because what my father and half-brother did to me basically changed my life, but not in the way they expected. The thing is, they're screwed now, and I'm doing better than ever. And yeah, maybe I sound vindictive, but after you hear everything, you're going to understand why I don't feel even a little bit bad for them. I guess I should start by explaining what my family was like before everything went to hell. My mom, Diana, died when I was like 11 years old, pancreatic cancer, and it was horrible, obviously. She was incredible, like the best mom anyone could ask for, always supporting me in everything, and my dad Timothy seemed to love her a lot too. What I didn't know at the time, because I was a kid and nobody told me anything, was that my mom was my dad's second wife. He had a son from his first marriage, Vincent, who's 6 years older than me. Vincent never lived with us. When I was little because he went with his mom when my parents got married, and honestly, I barely even knew he existed. Like I'd see him maybe once a year at Christmas or something. After Mom died, things with my dad got weird. He wasn't mean to me or anything, but he kind of distanced himself, you know. He worked longer hours, went out with his friends, and I spent a lot of time with my maternal grandparents, Hazel and Victor. They were always great to me. They'd pick me up from school, help me with homework, take me out for pizza on Fridays, that kind of thing. My dad worked at a pretty big tech company. He was like a manager of something. I don't know exactly what he did, but he made good money, and the house was paid off thanks to Mom's life insurance. Things stayed like that, kind of normal but distant, until about 8 months ago. One night my dad comes home and tells me, Vincent is going to move in with us for a while with his family. And I'm like, what family? Turns out I married a girl named Heather like 3 years ago, and they had a son, Logan, who's 2 years old now. I didn't even know Vincent was married. You know what I mean? That's how disconnected we were. I asked my dad for how long, and he said, I don't know, a couple months maybe. They're having financial problems and need help. I thought, okay, a little weird, but I guess it's fine. It's family after all. But then my dad tells me, and this is where things started to get bad. You're gonna have to sleep on the living room couch because Vincent and Heather need your room. I have final exams in 2 weeks. I need my desk, my space, my privacy, and he just said, it's temporary, Zachary. Don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. Those words still echo in my head because they basically became the theme of the next few months of my life. Vincent and his family arrived like a week later, and from day one, I knew this was going to be a disaster. Heather is one of those influencer moms, you know, always taking pictures with Logan, posting on Instagram about her perfect life, wearing expensive clothes and talking about manifestation and energies and all that shit. Vincent worked at the same company as my dad, something in accounting, I think, but from what I heard, he wasn't doing very well. The kid, Logan, wasn't bad, just a normal 2-year-old who cried a lot and made messes, but Heather basically didn't take care of him. Like she'd leave him running around the house, destroying everything while she was on her phone. The first week was awkward but manageable. I slept on the couch, tried to do my homework at the kitchen table, avoided being home as much as possible, but then Vincent and Heather started taking over everything. They used my PlayStation without asking permission. Heather would cook and leave the kitchen a total mess that I had to clean up. Logan scribbled on my backpack with crayons, and Heather just laughed and said, "Oh, he's just in his artistic phase." My dad didn't say anything. Literally nothing. He'd just work, and when he got home, he'd go straight to his room. A month after they arrived, my dad sits me down and tells me, "I need you to stay more time with your grandparents." Like, for how long? And he says, "I don't know. Maybe until you graduate. There's like 4 months until my graduation at that point. You know what I mean?" And I say, "Why? What did I do wrong?" And he says, "You didn't do anything wrong, but Vincent and Heather need more space. They're considering having another baby, and they need stability." I just sat there thinking, seriously? You're kicking me out of my own house, the house where I grew up with Mom, because your favorite son needs more space to maybe have another baby? I told him no, that this was my house too, that Mom would want me to be here, and he got furious. He yelled at me that I was ungrateful, that he'd given me a roof and food for years, that it was time I thought about someone other than myself. He tried to reason with him, but he was like, possessed. I'd never seen him that angry at me. Finally, he told me, "You have until Friday to pack your things and go to your grandparents' house. And if you don't, I'm going to call the police and they'll remove you for disturbing the peace." I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't. Call the police on his own son? To make room for Vincent, a 4-year-old adult who couldn't support his own family. I called my grandparents that night crying, and Hazel was furious, like angrier than I'd ever seen her in my life. She told me, "Pack everything you can tomorrow, and Victor is going to come get you. Don't worry, Mijo. You'll always have a home with us." And that's what they did. The next day, my grandpa Victor showed up with his truck, and we packed up my entire life in boxes. Vincent was there watching, not helping or anything, just standing in the doorway of my room with this smile like, "Yeah, this is mine, now." Heather was taking pictures of the room to plan how she was going to decorate it. My dad wasn't even home. He left for work early so he wouldn't have to see me leave. Living with my grandparents wasn't bad, not at all. They're amazing and treated me like a king. I had my own room, hot food every day, and most importantly, peace. No more Logan crying at 3 in the morning. No more Heather leaving her stuff all over the house. No more feeling like a burden in my own family. But it hurt. You know? It hurt like hell that my dad had chosen me to sacrifice instead of telling Vincent to get his act together and find his own place. Like 2 months passed and my dad called me. First time we'd talked since I left. I thought, okay, maybe he realized he screwed up. Maybe he's going to apologize. But no, he asks me, "How are your grandparents?" And I say, "They're fine." And he says, "Listen, I need a favor. Do you think you could ask them to lend us some money? Like $10,000, maybe 15 if they can." I was like, "What? You kicked me out of the house and now you want me to ask my grandparents for money?" And he says, "It's just that Vincent has some college debts and Heather needs a new car because hers doesn't work anymore, and I can't cover it all with my salary." I told him no, that I wasn't even going to ask them. And he got angry, told me I was selfish and that someday I'd understand what it means to be part of a family. I hung up and blocked him. My Aunt Gloria, my mom's sister, kept me updated on what was happening at my dad's house because she still talked to some neighbors. She told me that Vincent had bought a new Mustang. You mean, seriously? 10,000 for debts and you buy a Mustang? That Heather was pregnant again and that my dad was basically working 2 shifts to support them all. Part of me felt sorry for him, but most of me was just angry. He chose this. He chose Vincent over me. Now let him deal with the consequences. The thing is, my mom had a friend, Adrian, who was CEO of the company where my dad and Vincent worked. He was like my mom's best friend since college, and when she died, he told me that if I ever needed anything at all, to call him. I never did, because I didn't want to seem like I was taking advantage, but Adrian always asked how I was doing when I ran into him. Sent me Christmas gifts. That kind of thing. One day, like 3 months after I moved in with my grandparents, Adrian called me. He asked if we could meet for coffee, that he had something important to tell me. We met at a Starbucks near my school, and Adrian looked serious, like worried. He told me, "Zachary, I need to tell you something about your dad and Vincent, but you have to promise me you're going to stay calm." I said, okay, and he explained that the company had been investigating some irregularities in the accounts and discovered that Vincent had been stealing money. Like thousands of dollars, maybe up to 50,000 or more. He was diverting funds from project accounts to personal accounts, forging approvals, a whole fraud network. And the worst part, Adrian said, is that your dad knew about it and was trying to cover it up. I couldn't process what I was hearing. Vincent was a thief, and my dad was protecting him? Adrian explained that they wanted to keep it quiet for now, that they were gathering evidence, but that eventually they were going to have to report it to the authorities. He asked me if I knew anything, and I told him the whole story about how they'd kicked me out, how my dad asked me for money, everything. Adrian was furious. He told me that Deanna would be devastated if she knew what Timothy had done to her son to protect a thief. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday morning, I hear crazy knocking at my grandparents' door. My grandmother goes to open it, and there are my dad and Vincent, both looking like they hadn't slept in days. They come in without anyone inviting them, and my dad sees me and says, "We need to talk, now." My grandparents are like, "What's going on?" And Vincent starts crying. Yeah, crying like a baby, saying he made a mistake, that he needs help, that his life is ruined. My dad pulls me aside and explains that Adrian discovered the money thing and that they're going to fire Vincent, probably him too, for covering it up. He tells me, "I need you to talk to Adrian. Tell him that Vincent didn't know what he was doing, that it was an accounting error, that you can convince him not to press charges." I just stood there thinking, is this guy crazy or what? He kicked me out of my house, treated me like garbage, asked me for money for his thief son, and now he wants me to lie to save his ass. I told him no, simple and direct, that I wasn't going to lie for them, that Vincent made his bed and now he had to lie in it. My dad lost his mind, started yelling at me that I was a terrible son, that Diana would be ashamed of me, that I owed them this for all the years they raised me. Vincent also started begging, saying that Heather was pregnant, that Logan needed his dad, that he couldn't go to jail. And I just thought, what about me? Didn't I need a dad when you kicked me out? Didn't I deserve support when I was going through my senior year of high school? My grandpa Victor literally had to throw them out of the house. He told them that if they came near me again, he was going to call the police. My dad yelled at me from the car, "This is your fault. If Adrian fires us, it's because you influenced him. You destroyed this family." And I just closed the door in their faces. The next few days were crazy. My dad called me like 50 times from different numbers because I had him blocked. He sent me emails, text messages. He even went to my school looking for me, but the principal wouldn't let him in because I'd warned them I didn't want to see him. Vincent also started contacting me, saying his marriage was falling apart, that Heather was going to leave him, that it was all my fault for not helping him. The audacity of this. Guy? Seriously? Adrian called to tell me he'd heard my dad was harassing me, and that if he didn't stop, he was going to get a restraining order. He also told me more details about what Vincent had done. Turns out he didn't just steal money from the company accounts, he also used the corporate credit card to buy a bunch of personal stuff. The Mustang, expensive clothes for Heather, new furniture, even a vacation to Cancun that they posted on Instagram. All paid for with company money. Probably like $100,000 total when they added everything up. But that's when I decided I wasn't going to be passive about this anymore. If my dad and Vincent wanted to play dirty, I could too. I spent the next few weeks gathering information. I went through all of Vincent and Heather's social media, saved screenshots of all their luxury purchases, their vacations, their posts showing off their perfect life while I was sleeping on a couch. I found posts from Heather complaining that Vincent didn't make enough money, which was ironic considering he was stealing thousands of dollars every month. I also talked to some people who knew Vincent from college. Turns out he'd always been like this, always expecting others to solve his problems, always feeling like he deserved more than he'd earned. One guy told me that Vincent had tried to cheat on a final exam, and when he got caught, he blamed the student sitting next to him. That was Vincent, never accepting responsibility for anything. I did something that maybe wasn't the most ethical, but honestly, I don't care. I sent an anonymous email to Heather with all the evidence of Vincent's fraud, including the bank statements Adrian had shown me, with his permission, obviously. I explained that the money they'd been spending was stolen, that Vincent was going to jail, and that she needed to protect herself and Logan. I don't know if it was because of the email or if she already suspected something, but a week later Heather packed her things and went to live with her parents. She left Vincent alone in my old house, pregnant with his second child. Also, and this sounds really vindictive, but I'm going to admit it, I created an anonymous social media account and sent all the information about the fraud to Vincent's friends. Not with names or specific details, just like, "Hey, did you know this guy is under investigation for stealing from his job?" I basically destroyed his social reputation. His friends started distancing themselves. They stopped inviting him to things. Some even put vague posts about the importance of honesty and integrity. Vincent noticed and deleted all his social media. Adrian finally filed formal charges. The company decided to sue Vincent for the stolen money, and press criminal charges for fraud. My dad didn't face criminal charges but was fired immediately for cover-up and violation of corporate protocols. Within a week, they both lost their jobs, their reputation, and basically their future in the industry, because these things get around and nobody's going to hire a known thief or someone who covered up fraud. My Aunt Gloria kept me updated. My dad had to sell his car, had to take out loans to pay for lawyers. He was basically broke. Vincent was still living alone in the house because technically it was in my dad's name, but without a job and with a civil lawsuit and criminal charges on top of him, his life was a disaster. Heather filed for divorce from her parents' house, asking for full custody of Logan and claiming Vincent was financially and emotionally unstable. And me, while all this was happening, you know what I was doing? Living my best life. My grandparents supported me in everything, helped me apply to colleges, took me to visit campuses. Adrian, being the incredible friend of my mom that he always was, offered me a paid internship at his company for the summer before starting college. Not in the same department where my dad worked, obviously, but in the tech department, which is what interests me. He also told me the company has a scholarship program for children of deceased employees because of my mom, and that I was going to qualify for that. I graduated from high school with honors. My grandparents, my Aunt Gloria, Adrian and his family went to my graduation. My dad and Vincent obviously weren't invited and didn't even try to show up. It was one of the best days of my life, honestly. Afterward, we went to dinner at a nice restaurant, and Adrian gave me a watch that had been my mom's. He told me she would have been so proud of me, and I cried right there in the middle of the restaurant. I didn't care. Like a month ago, I received a letter from my dad. A physical letter, old school. It was basically a long apology explaining that he knew he'd made mistakes, that he was blinded by his love for Vincent, that he didn't realize how much he hurt me until it was too late. It said Vincent was probably going to prison, that Heather had taken Logan and wouldn't let him see him, that he lost his house because he couldn't pay the mortgage without his job, and that he was now living with his brother in a small apartment. It ended saying he'd understand if I never wanted to talk to him again, but that he hoped someday I could forgive him. I didn't respond. Not because I'm cruel or because I want to see him suffer, okay, maybe a little bit, but because I honestly don't have anything to say to him. He made his choices, chose to protect a thief over caring for his younger son, and now he's living with the consequences. Maybe in the future, I don't know. In a few years when I'm in college and have more perspective, we can have a conversation. But right now, I don't want that toxicity in my life. Vincent was formally charged. His trial is in 2 months, and his lawyers are trying to negotiate a deal to reduce the sentence, but Adrian told me he's probably going to prison for at least a couple years. Heather already officially divorced him, and remarried, if you can believe it, to a guy she met on an app just a few months after leaving Vincent. Vincent lost all his custody rights because he can't pay child support, and the judge decided he wasn't a stable father. Logan basically has no dad now, which is sad, but honestly, it's better for the kid than having Vincent as a role model. I'm starting college in 3 months. I got the scholarship from Adrian's company plus 2 other academic scholarships, so basically my education is paid for. My grandparents told me they're going to help me with housing and food expenses, and I'm going to work part-time at my internship to have extra money. I'm studying systems engineering, something I always liked and that my mom supported when she was alive. I feel, I don't know, free, I guess. Like I can finally live my life without the weight of a dysfunctional family that never valued me. Sometimes, I wonder if I did the right thing by not helping my dad and Vincent when they asked me to. Am I a bad person for letting them sink? But then I remember how they treated me, how they made me feel like I was less important than Vincent just because he was the firstborn, and the guilt disappears. They dug their own hole. I just refused to pull them out of it. There's a difference between revenge and simply letting people face the consequences of their actions, right? I think what I did was the latter, mostly. My therapist, yeah, I started therapy after all this, my grandparents insisted, and it turned out to be a good idea, says it's normal to have mixed feelings, that I can be angry at my dad and at the same time feel sorry for him, that they're not mutually exclusive. She also says that setting boundaries doesn't make me a bad person, that choosing my own peace of mind and well-being over family pressure is healthy. That helps me when I feel guilty, which happens every now and then, even though I don't want to admit it. The craziest thing about all this is that in the end, losing, my dad and Vincent didn't feel like losing something valuable. It felt like finally letting go of something heavy that I'd been carrying for years, without realizing it. I have my grandparents who love me unconditionally. I have Adrian and his family who treat me like I'm part of theirs. I have my Aunt Gloria, who's always there for me. And I have a bright future ahead. Do I need more than that? I don't think so. Last week, my grandpa Victor asked me if I'd ever forgive my dad. I told him the truth, that I didn't know. Maybe when I'm older, when I have my own family and can better understand the complexities of parent-child relationships. Or maybe never. And it's okay not to know right now. I don't have to have all the answers. I just have to keep moving forward with my life and be the best version of myself I can be. That's what my mom would have wanted. And at the end of the day, her opinion is the only one that really matters to me.